Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Giving the Game Away. Today, Ian and I are going to discuss the death of social media and why gaming is taking over.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's a pretty timely topic. I've read an article recently about how Facebook, especially ad spend, could be peaking, and maybe we've reached the kind of peak social media. So I'm excited to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, It's a really interesting topic. This was all sort of so this is based on an article that I've written that's not actually released yet, so it's very much a sneak preview. A lot of fun there. I called that article "Social Media is Dead, Long Live Social Media," which I thought was witty, but I'll just say that for my own title there. It was all inspired by this report from Comatter, who were talking about declining social media usage in general in every population, but not about how social media is going to disappear, but about how it's going to change, and how the needs that it fulfills now aren't actually meeting the needs that people want. But we'll get into all of this. It's a whole topic, which is why we're talking about it now. First, and feel free to jump in with. I don't think I've read the article about Facebook's peaking ad usage, so let's feed off each other in that regard. First of all, a very brief history lesson, because it gives us this sort of shows how much it's changed in its purposes and how inevitable it was. So social media was never planned. Like from the very early days of the internet, before the internet, social media sort of just happened on its own. Community memory was the first sort of thing that we can call social media now, and it was just this digital bulletin board set up in Berkeley, California, and it was just designed for organizations to toss resources and memos back and forth. It was very dry, but it was used by humans, and humans started immediately like sharing art and jokes and Lonely Hearts columns on it. I'm sure there's someone out there who was born because their parents met on Community Memory, which is weird to think about. I'm sure someone's born because their parents met on MySpace. Crazy. It stumbled into being a social media, and technology progressed. The internet happened, and social media was inevitable because that's all humans crave from it. AOL gave us messaging boards. Then in like 1997, we got like 6 Degrees, which was a social media site using profiles. Did you use 6 Degrees?
Sam? No, I don't. But I've somehow found out about it when I was doing, I think, writing another article looking at history of social networks.
Yeah. The big difference, though, between stuff like 6 Degrees and the stuff we have today, like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, is how commoditized social media is in the modern sense. So back then, it was purely like sharing information and messaging and art and all of this stuff. Whereas Facebook now tries to be ahead of you. It tries to tell you what you want to see with algorithms, and it pushes adverts on you within those algorithms in a really aggressive way today, which sort of, it creates this weird sort of unease. A lot of people feel like a product, and they are, in a sense, they are a product, but that's not what social media should be making anyone feel. It should be, built for the purpose of serving the humans using it. Advertising is necessary, but it should still be useful and it should still make you feel good, the thing you're using. I don't know if you agree with that, Sam. I'm certainly speaking for both of us there.
Yeah. I think the over monetization of the feeds have created this system where, as explained in that Netflix documentary, the algorithms are trying to optimize kind of rabbit holes that you might be interested in digging. So it's things that you might not know that you're interested in, that might not be useful for you, but it's the things that are going to keep you longer on the platform, because the longer you spend on the platform, the more ads can be served. And so, that's pretty obvious when you like start clicking on YouTube video recommendation, and for, I don't know what it can be, like anything, prank by an influencer or something, and then after you start watching one, your whole list are similar type of videos, and sometimes you just end up spending hours and hours just clicking next. Oh, what's about that? That looks interesting. And that's really how they get you. That's the purpose of the algorithms. And this have been built by smart people, and it's now optimizing itself. So the system is just getting smarter and smarter at fulfilling the goal that it was set to do, with disregard for the actual user experience and the mental state of the players, of the users.
Well, yeah, exactly. The goal it's been designed to do is not to make that platform the best social media and connect people better. It's to commoditize those people better. Every time I talk about technology, I can't help but think about an analogy that's in the book *Sapiens*. Very good book. Yeah. It's that he talks about every progression, every technology, and every social development that humans make. In order to try and make our lives easier, it just makes our lives harder every single time. So we domesticated wheat because then we didn't have to run around and forage for food. That was great. But now we are slaves to wheat. We have to harvest it and tend to it and feed it. Email. We built email so that we could send messages immediately. No more snail mail. But now we're always on our phones and we're always connected and always very slightly stressed. Social media is in many ways like that. We built this technology to connect with each other and talk and be a community. But humans always want more. They always want to. They always want more of something until it becomes too much. So we'll always try and gather more food than we need because that's security. That feels good. And in social media, we wanted more likes, more friends, more followers. We wanted to be hyper connected. And that's the sort of underlying social vibe that the technology of today latched onto. The Co-Matter report states that, or at least argues, that social media, or what they call the post-social media age that we're entering now, is all about, or is going to be all about, conscientious usage. So not just, I need more friends, I need more likes, but more, I need to use this platform for work, or I'm going to use this private platform for its close community ties. Or, I know a lot of people who use Instagram purely because they are they're self-employed, and it's a way for them to promote their own goods. And that's conscientious usage, where you're not subject to the algorithm because you're not really browsing Instagram. You're putting information into it, but not taking it out, which I found really interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting. And, I've been trying really hard to wean myself off of social media myself and stop just endlessly scrolling. And it's hard. Like, you just end up reaching for your phone because you get that little dopamine hit. Like, there's always something new on it. I don't know. Have you ever tried to detox from social media, Sam?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not really using it much. Like, we're certainly posting more than I'm reading it, but I sometimes catch myself just scrolling down, just seeing stories of people that when you start clicking on them, they will be also prioritized. So you end up seeing the same 2 or 3 people for no reason. And sometimes you just scroll down and you can feel very quickly you're like, this is not fulfilling, right? It's like, why am I doing this? It's a clear waste of time. So yeah, I think it's it's really important to watch yourself when you do these kind of things. And I think for me, what's a bit scary is the younger generation that was born with these phones in hands and do not know what it is to not have this. I didn't have Facebook until I was, I think, 17 or something like that. So a lot of the time beforehand, there was no social media, there was nothing like that, there was no phone even. But I think if you were born with it, and already in primary school or high school, everyone is on their phone. People keep interacting online. It's just it's a bit worrying, to be honest, for that generation. I think we can already see the, mental health problems and even suicide rate being much higher, and it coincide with the launch of the iPhone and smartphone, which is pretty crazy correlation. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how that ties into our topic of our podcast and gaming that is going to save the world from this, but yeah, that's the kind of thing that I look at and kind of worry about how it could be abused. We're not denying that social media has been, helping a lot of people, helping a lot of countries, and around, disasters or raising funds for something, raising awareness. That's fantastic. But I think because of the machine that is being built to attract people and keep people on the website or the app for as long as possible, this is starting to have a significant mental effect on the users, and especially the younger users who cannot differentiate real life from social media. I think it's a real risk.
It is. It really is. And there's so much data supporting how aware young people are of that risk. So the largest group of people deleting their Facebook accounts right now are teenagers, from I think 14 to 21, which is slightly out of the teenage range. But every single survey shows that the younger generation are more conscious of security on social media too, and privacy. It's a personal theory, but I think the IDFA policy changes on iOS 14 were driven more by the younger generation than they were the older generation, and the overwhelming pressure to be more in control of your data. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but the IDFA is really a way to track users across multiple apps. Like, this will not really affect the time that is being spent, This is the data is one thing, but the behavior is another thing. And I think the data is actually not what the focus should be on, because cool, you have my email, fair enough, but I don't want my kids to be depressed because they just think that the life of everyone else is better because they're browsing Instagram, right? So that for me is a much bigger problem hiding in plain sight. And as long as the top people in these companies are not making any changes, or people just leave the platform in masses, nothing will change. Nothing will change.
Of course. The way that it always comes back to me, to the fact that social media right now is all about quantity and not quality. And I think that's what people want. People want better quality connections. They don't just want more today. I haven't added a Facebook friend in a long time. I haven't added more than one at a time in a long time. I think when I was a teenager, you'd like browse through lists and add like 30 at once, and then there's a whole other thing. Now I want to know the people that I'm speaking to and seeing. And that is why video games are such an important alternative, because the social elements of video games are entirely quality and not quantity. The friends that you play with or the friends that you play against, you're doing an activity together. You're experiencing something at the same time. And I'll go into more detail on this in a second. But you are sort of enriching each other's lives by that contact. You're not looking at a model in the game and being like, why am I not like that? You're doing the same thing. You're on the same playing field, and that's really important.
Sharing experiences.
Exactly. And we've mentioned this before, but there's this sociology term called third space, and it's worth reiterating that as well. So a third space is any area outside the home and work that has a sort of community feeling that makes you the way you can interact and unwind, and it makes you feel good, basically. Traditionally in sociology, those are places like pubs and coffee shops, and social media in the very early days could have been classed as one. Social media today, with the stress and the challenges and the
bullying, white supremacists,
not a very community-driven area to be in. But video games are very much a third space right now. It's purely about fun and interacting and hanging out with people. Even back in 2005, with MMOs, which was the first time sociologists were interested in video games as a third space, people were having fun and they were still talking. It was still a social media, but they weren't just sort of battling each other in this weird Cold War of image.
Do you think that the platform is just not too big? There's just too many people. Everyone has too many friends, follows too many pages, so that there's just, you know, this kind of information overload, which just makes it too much to process. And, you know, when there's just too much information thrown at you, it's like almost this paralysis, right? Okay, what do I look at first? I need to refresh. Maybe I missed something. And I feel like in the early days, you know, it was kind of like just talking to friends. Yeah, there was a bunch of people that you knew less, but like now I'm looking through my feed and half of people I don't even know who they are. So yeah, do you think that maybe we reach a scale that is working very well for, I'm talking about Facebook mainly as a business, but you know, we kind of went above what makes sense for humans?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there is sort of a hardwired biological upper limit of how many social connections that we can handle, so just mentally. Like, our brains are limited machines. We can't handle dealing with like 100,000 people at once. We can't even think about numbers of that scale. You can't even imagine it. Facebook, I think, would be sort of great. I think it's a great social platform. It would be a lot better if it were to be like all the servers were to be reset overnight and everyone was just starting from square one again, and you had to choose your friends again, you had to choose your groups again, and you had control again over what your feed looked like and who was in it. It's playing into that idea that connection needs to be quality, not quantity. And yeah, it's been around too long and it's gotten too big, and now everyone's connected to everyone and we're overwhelmed.
Do you remember this platform called Path? This was a social network in 2010, I think they launched. And they were limiting the number of connections to 50. So you could only invite like people that you really wanted to follow. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because they were trying to create these experiences that you could do together. So you could draw, I think it was a screen where you could draw together and you would see what the other was drawing on the screen live, or you could play mini games. So they were trying to kind of bring, you know, more engagement to the platform beyond just sharing things.
That's nice.
Of course, because the limited amount of people in connection, the network effects were just a lot less strong. Less scale, less advertisers, less monetization options. They ended up selling to another social network called Kakao. But so it was not a big success, but they came at it with the right idea. It's just that the economic system around it didn't really favor that model against the more the Facebook model effectively.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I think that's part of the appeal of Reddit, because you really choose your communities based on your interests. Reddit is still, like, within those communities, it's still overwhelming because you're still just getting constant stuff. But to me, it feels like a bit more personal, and a bit more manageable. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the appeal of Reddit, at least. But it's also the appeal of video games, because stuff like Fortnite, you only really play Fortnite. Well, I only ever really played Fortnite with people that I know, and that's the most fun I've had from them. There are strangers in the room. I'm shooting someone from France or Spain or Croatia or something like that. I don't know them, I don't speak to them, but I'm still interacting with them, but more importantly, interacting with my friends. It's sort of a social media where it's sort of like laser tag.
Virtual version of that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Except a version of laser tag where you can hang out and watch a concert if you wanted to, or just chat and dance. I guess you could dance in laser tag, but then you're just a sitting duck. It's not a very good tactic.
Yeah, it's not the main use case.
No, not really. But Fortnite is a social media now. I think it's a platform, as Tim Sweeney sort of hinted at a few times. It's now sprinted ahead of Netflix, YouTube, and Facebook in usage hours by teens. These teenage players say that Fortnite provides the most positively impactful entertainment in their lives, when traditional social media like Facebook is providing the least positive experience of their lives.
Yeah.
And Fortnite has now gathered more collective playtime hours than humans have even existed. So it's doing a lot of good.
Wait, how is that? Oh, right. If you aggregate, I see. Yeah, billions of years, probably, or billions of days.
Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, it's like 10 over. Is it 10 million? 10 billion? It's a lot. It's a lot of millions.
Billions. It has to be in billions.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It's a long time. That's really.
I think what you're saying about like positive feeling when you play. It's when very few people, I think, would be finding themselves in a situation where they are like playing a game and then like, oh, what am I doing? Why am I playing this game? Yeah. Like sometimes you go on Facebook, it's almost a reflex. You go Facebook, go Instagram, you don't know what to do. You're waiting for your next meeting. You're in the transport. You just scroll aimlessly. It's not even a conscious decision. But for games, it's maybe hyper casual games, but most of the time I'm going to play this. I'm going to do that. There's a goal. There's a reward at the end of it, which is more of a conscious choice to decide, okay, I'm going to play this. I'm going to beat this level. I'm going to pass this. I'm going to play against my friends. So you approach it with a much more positive mindset. It's not just, killing time, but you have a goal. And I think the fact that you have a goal, whether it's intrinsic or extrinsic motivation, at least it's a more positive frame of mind than social media generally. And I think that makes all the difference.
It does. I haven't actually spoken about that in this article, but there is a lot to be said of the fact that social media is dying, and yes, it's being replaced by other social media-esque things like Fortnite, but it is also being replaced by personal enrichment. I think playing a hyper-casual game instead of just browsing Facebook does make you feel good, and that's important. So yeah, social media doesn't have to be replaced by other social media, but people will probably find a way to socially interact within that. Yeah, it's a really interesting point. We've spoken about hyper-casual a lot, and it's a powerful, powerful genre right now, exactly because it ticks the same boxes as social media, but makes you feel good, which is pretty great. So it's probably good to talk briefly about the challenges of monetization in platforms like Facebook, and why the monetization of them is probably hurting how people feel about them. So when you see an ad on Facebook, it doesn't always make you feel good, because there's a lot of, you sort of feel like you're being gamed a little bit, and it's constant and aggressive. It's very much so I've sort of pinned it down to three major things. So sincerity, and it's good to contrast them to a platform like Twitch, which is a social media, but I think it does these things much better. So a platform like Facebook the advertising is a little bit less sincere, just because there's so much of it and it's so aggressive. It doesn't necessarily respect you as a user. Whereas Twitch, the advertising is a bit more subtle and curated by the person you're watching, not an algorithm. It feels more personal, and monetization that feels personal is something we're going to understand more because we're human. We want to connect with other people. Transparency is important as well. Facebook, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, whereas with Twitch streamers, they're real people. They're going to tell you they've got a job and they have sponsors and stuff like that. Fortnite, if you wear a Nike sneaker in Fortnite, it's pretty obvious how transparent that is. It is a product placement, but you like it. You know where it's coming from. You know why it's there. You like Nike sneakers. Whereas the big scandal about influencers doing advertising they didn't announce on Instagram, that makes you feel bad because you're being lied to. Very big difference there as well. And non-intrusiveness is the other third one. So advertising in gaming spaces like Fortnite and even on Twitch, it's not designed to be in your face. It's not designed to distract from the experience that you're doing. It's designed to support the experience financially, but not change the essence of the experience. It's not designed to make it a different game. You're not just watching ads and then your break is playing a game. You're playing a game and then ads happen. Especially with in-play ads, which are even more subtle and less intrusive and interruptive. They make you feel better about the experience that you're going through. Whereas Facebook, just constantly plastered. And these three things combined really, it really hurts the experience, which I think is partly causing this decline, as beyond the whole impersonal element of social media already. The monetization is sort of pushing it even faster. I don't know if you agree with this, Sam, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if people actually think of it this way, or if it's more that because I guess a consequence of that monetization, and it's just, as I said before, it looks like there's just too much. Yeah, I'm not sure if people think of it this way, or it's because there's just a lot going on social media, therefore it's less utility for the average user, therefore the network effects actually start to undo themselves. Like there's just less people, my friends are not on there, so why should I be on there? So I think it is, but there's a lot of inertia, right? They have so much power, there's so much going on there, events are now planned there, Messenger, that it's just really hard to really break free of the platform.
It is.
It
is really hard. But inertia, I think inertia will eventually just fade and then start moving away from it. Replacements will happen, and the fact that people are turning to Fortnite significantly more than Facebook already, I think that's a great sign that gaming is fulfilling this need that social media isn't right now. Other things are as well. I think there's also going to be really hyper-personal, community-driven social medias as well. Like you could make your own Facebook and it gets supported through donations of its users, and you basically only have your tight friendship group on there. I think that's probably going to be a thing as well. Currently, gaming is the most is the biggest competitor of our time, and one of the most positive ones. People feel good from it, and that's what I care about.
Definitely. I think everything interactive. That's the problem with social media. It's very passive, right? Even if you can play a game there, initially this is how Facebook was trying to grow, piggybacking on their gaming platform. But eventually, it's more about just browsing things, being lost in a stream of content and feeding the algorithm. So I think what I like about gaming is, even though a lot of it is monetized through advertising, it's not the same type of advertising, and therefore the way that the game is constructed and optimized is not to make you watch these ads effectively. And so just because of that, right, the algorithms are smart. They will eventually take the platform wherever fulfills their goal, as AI just gets smarter every day. So instead, when games are built to be creative, they're built to be engaging. Yes, they are built to maximize the time that you spend in the game, but not to maximize the number of ads that are being placed. That's more of a byproduct of the design. So I think the motivation and the way that it's been designed so far has been positive, and this is why it's a pretty it's a positive medium. It's a positive medium that will remain so for a long time.
Exactly. It is, and that's people are always going to gravitate towards the things that make them feel good. There's behavioral addiction of like, I've got to scroll through my feed because that's what my thumbs know how to do. But in the long run, I think people are going to do the thing that makes them happy, or the time filler that gives them some sort of psychological joy. And gaming is becoming that thing faster and faster. I am very excited to see where it goes and what the social media of tomorrow is going to look like.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it will be a mix of the platforms that we have today and taking the best bits and combining the non-intrusiveness, the 3D richness of the environment, the creativity of it, and also quality over quantity, hopefully.
Yeah.
But that remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think on that note, that hopeful, future-looking note, I think we can wrap it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd love to hear from you guys that are watching this or listening to this. What do you think the future of social media is going to be, and how is gaming going to merge our social needs and our gaming needs? Love to discuss that. Cool. Well, thanks a lot, everyone, for listening. Please keep following us for more episodes like this, and we will see you next week for another episode.